One of my favorite dishes in the summer is the Japanese marinated aubergine, agebitashi. The technique, which simply means deep fried and marinated in a very flavoursome broth. Now, unless you have a deep fryer and you're batch cooking the whole dish, it's rarely worth the effort for a cold starter. Today, I want to show you a way to achieve the same result without frying. Instead of deep frying, we're simply going to roast our aubergine until crispy and golden brown, and we'll proceed with the marination. So, very simple. We prepare our aubergine for roasting. Now, for this recipe, I always prefer to use either baby aubergine or Japanese aubergine, just because we're keeping the skin on, and you want to minimize the possibility of the skin being chewy. And the rule is, the smaller the aubergine, the less likely. And to prevent oxidization of the aubergine, we're going to have a mixing bowl with a very generous amount of neutral oil. In this case, vegetable oil. Roasted aubergine really needs a lot of oil, but I'll show you a technique to remove all the excess oil before serving. So, we simply remove the top and we slice our aubergine in half. And to help the marination process, we score the skin. Perfect. Straight into the oil to prevent oxidation. Because of the effort required, I like to make them in batches, and you have a wonderful cold starter for the whole week. So, we make sure each and every one of them is coated with a generous amount of oil. If you're going to try to make this, please, please, please trust me, add more oil than you think you need. And I promise you, we'll skim off all of it before we serve. I mean, if you've been following me for even a day, you know, fat skimming is my Saturday activity. Now, grab baking trays lined with parchment paper. Unless you have a non-stick tray, it's very important to use parchment paper for aubergine, because you don't want the oven to work so hard to make them crispy, only for them to break apart. And since we're going to roast it at very high heat, the heat will evaporate a lot of the water content of the aubergine, bringing with it any potential for bitterness. So we don't have to salt them ahead, squeeze them, and do all the shebang. Now, it's of vital importance that we form one even layer and not crowd the tray. Now, they go into a preheated oven. At 240, we're cooking them at very high heat for about 30 minutes, but moderate so the skin does not burn. Now, while that's roasting away, we prepare our very flavoursome broth. First up, we make a dashi. For this recipe, use Dashi Sachets because of the soy sauce we'll introduce. It makes no sense to waste your time making a homemade dashi. Save that for your beef udons. So, some water. As you can see, I'm very generous with the water because of how we want to remove the fat later. We make the dashi, we bring this to a bare simmer, and we let it steep on the side for about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, we deal with the mirin and the soy sauce. So, traditionally, this recipe calls for sake, mirin, soy sauce, and sugar. Whenever these 4 ingredients are demanded by a recipe, I often just ditch the sake, double the mirin, and reduce it in half, so you get the sake mirin flavors and the natural sugar. So we simply add the mirin to cook. Once the mirin has been reduced by half, we add the soy sauce. And we give the soy sauce a bit of time to cook just to remove the potential of a bit of harshness. Now, we remove the sachet from our dashi, squeeze out all the good bits, and the dashi goes into our mirin and soy mixture. So now, the marinating liquid is ready when the aubergine is ready. I'll see you then. Alright, after 30 minutes, these beauties, they come out. Look at how beautiful they are. Crispy on the outside, yet still soft on the inside. Golden brown on both sides. So now, we add them to our liquid. Make sure everything is submerged. Now, as promised, the fat skimming. We simply bring some heat back to the pot, and the heat would gently squeeze out whatever oil that has not already been squeezed out during the oven cooking process. Now, once we're close to simmering, you can see the layer of oil floating to the top. So we simply skim off the oil. Perfect. Now, stove off. And you want to leave this to marinate for at least 30 minutes if you want to serve it hot. If you want to serve it cold, which is how I prefer it, once this has cooled down naturally, you move it to the fridge and you have a wonderful, wonderful cold starter for the hot summer for at least a few days. But just to demonstrate how I normally serve it, let's plate one. So I always prefer this dish cold. Beautiful. Look at that. The marination is now working its magic to soften wonderfully crispy skin. Perfect. Of course, very generous with the liquid. And to garnish, a bit of grated daikon. If you don't have access to daikon, grate some radish. It will really bring the whole dish together. A bit of grated ginger to go on top, and a beautiful sprinkle of scallion green or chives. And that's it. One of my favorite cold dishes for the summer. This is Japanese marinated aubergine. I really hope you enjoy.